the baby doesn't mess this up. All right. You excited? You excited?
Oh, I think that was a piece of shit.
It's a rock.
The way it came rolling from under the pillow.
All right. Peace, everyone. This is my mom, my European mother. Today, we're going to talk about. Can y'all hear me? Testing. Can you hear me? Peace. Let's make it brighter in here. How about that? Before brighten it in post-production, I'm lying. I don't know how to do that.
Should have had all of that done before.
Can y'all hear us? Look, I'm looking like you. Alright, cool. They can hear us. I know you can't see with your glasses that far. You know?
No, these are my. I can see.
Okay. So you can read that?
No.
So you can't see that?
I can see, but it's tiny. I can't.
Alright, so we're going to prescribe you better prescription.
No.
Alright, serious note. I'm serious. Okay, I'm supposed to bring up the whiteboard and everything. Alright, so I'll do that later when you're not here, you know? Go into a little bit more details.
Okay.
So we're going to talk about mortgage fraud, like the title says. If you go to riseofthemoors.org, right? riseofthemoors.org, go to the website. There's a tab up here. There's, you just click on it. There's another tab, Res Judicata. I was already on it. And then there is modern day slavery. Click on that first, right? No, you can't see it on this camera, the YouTube. And some of the things I go over today is on this page on the Rise of the Moors website. And if you do the same thing, if you go to the drop down, Res Judicata, modern day slavery, there's another drop down. Click on from Black Wall Street to the ghettos, because a lot of what's on this is related to what we're talking about today, just so that way you have more of a like historical context of how our people are in this position, and then as well as the trust law 101 through 105 or 104, which this is 105 for free. And then there's mortgage fraud, how to stop a foreclosure, Bay versus Oldfield, which I have the paperwork from that case here. That's available on the website for purchase, right? So, how long have we lived in the house? Not this house, but
Since 1999.
1999. I remember there was carpet on the rug. I mean, on the stairs, the red carpet on the stairs.
Carpet
Right?
on the stairs wasn't red. It was orange.
You sure? I thought it was like red, but like this.
It was like this, but it wasn't red. It was like orange, like a brown.
Same brown, orange, red.
There was a red carpet
Same.
somewhere. I think it was in the kitchen.
And I remember we had like the wood
Wood panel.
panels on the roofs. And what else do I remember? I kind of remember like moving in the first day. I really didn't know what was going on, but y'all told us this is our new house. I was young. I didn't know what that meant.
Right.
And I remember there was Asian people that lived there before us.
Mm-hmm.
Were they relatives with the people, our neighbors, or the ones
No, the ones
in that White House, right?
across from, yeah.
And, you know, oh, now you're on camera. We grew up with my cousins, like, up the street, like 2 houses over. We basically lived in this house for a long time.
1999.
And, yeah, since 1999.
December 20th.
And I found more science around 2016 when I first got out the military. And if you hear stuff in the background, that's my daughter playing with toys. And I studied under...
Sorry.
my sister, but I'm the favorite child. But I studied on the Todd Street Bay, and he talked about mortgage fraud a lot. Oh, my girl. Mortgage fraud a lot. So knowing, you know, studying under him and knowing that there's a lot of fraud that exists, I figured it's better to have this information now while I'm not in any trouble than to wait. She kind of walked on camera if you want to. You did a good job. It's better to have the information now than to wait until I'm in trouble and then scramble around to try to figure out what to do next. And I think I do have a few documents missing, but my mom's here to confirm everything. And I'm not going to show certain things on camera, but I'll read it because like my mom's address is here, and that's private information. But right here I have in front of me from, I mean, what is this? Shipman? Happerlin Savage LLP, Attorneys at Law, a limited liability partnership. And this is from August 29, 2018. I thought that they sent something earlier than that, but this is what it says. This office represents standard specialized loan services. I can't read. This office represents specialized loan servicing LLC, servicer for Deutsche Bank, National Trust Company. Now that is very important, and you'll see why that is later. As trustee for Morgan Stanley ABS Capital Inc. So we're dealing with this organization, which represents another organization who is a trustee for another organization. So we're dealing with, you know, a well-organized attack, basically, right? Trust, and then they have the trust number, mortgage pass-through certificates, series 2006 HE4 in the above referenced matter. Enclosed, please find a notice of default in mortgagee's rights to foreclose and notice of availability of mortgage counseling services. Yours truly, Maggie Pitts Daly, Esquire. And what people need to know about mortgages, and I'll go into a little bit more details later. I'm going to speak briefly now, so that way, you know, I'm not wasting my mom's time. We can just talk about it later. I know, but there's a lot of technical stuff. And we kind of talked about this throughout the entire process of me helping her fight for our house. I tried my best to explain what I was doing throughout the process of me doing it. And this is not legal advice. This video is for educational purposes only. This is just what I did to try to help, well, what we did to try to help combat what they were doing. So if you know anyone with a mortgage, or if you have a mortgage yourself, if you actually read it, you'll see that whoever you have the loan from, they reserve the right to foreclose on the mortgage whether you make a default or not. So even if you make all the payments on time for 15 plus years, they still can say, you know what, we're going to foreclose on you. That's what it says in the actual mortgage contract. Most people don't know that. You know? Yeah,
because nobody reads that. We're just signing when we go in.
Yeah, because we want to be homeowners and we're excited, and this is the process that we're taught to be homeowners, and it's full of deceit and it's full of dishonesty.
Yes, definitely.
And before I continue, is there anything that you want to say, like, about? Because I think my like perspective with more science is always, this is supposed to help in like practical, real life scenarios. So I remember like when I first got out the military and I was going to get a multifamily home, and I got pre-approved for like a $200,000 loan, but when I was in the room with the realtor or whatever he was, like, it just felt wrong. You know what I mean? It just felt wrong. Just like remember when we went to get my car, and I told you, like, I felt weird, like it was mad weird. The whole environment was weird.
Right.
Like I went into the room with them and they made the offer or whatever, and then they just stopped talking, was just staring at me. And I was like, and I felt pressured, like, oh, I have to do this now, you know? It was so uncomfortable, and like these are things that we just ignore, but we know it's wrong, you know? But for me personally, for the sake of having a car, I felt like what I was doing was wrong, but I did it anyway because I wanted a car. Like when you guys got the mortgage, did you ever feel anything weird at the time, or was it just you were excited to get?
No, I was, maybe because we were so young. Well, I was young. I was excited. I wasn't thinking that they were being deceitful, that I was signing anything that there was little things in there that could take your whole life away from you in a blink of an eye. No, never.
And you guys had like a realtor, right, to help negotiate this deal, and they didn't really explain anything to you, did they?
No, because they're basically just there for their commission. They don't care.
Yeah.
They don't.
Yeah. And that's why I say, you know, it's very important to read. I mean, I know it's lengthy, and some of it is like, I had a lot of conversations with my mom, and some of the language in the mortgage seems confusing, but it's not. What they do is they'll say this, just as an example, again, this is for educational purposes only, this is not legal advice. It'll say like, this contract is governed by this specific law, right? and then when you look up that specific law, it references another thing. So just how this company is representing that company who's a trustee for that company who's really this company, it's the same thing to deliberately cause confusion and things like that, and to help it helps cause confusion when they cause panic,
Right.
So, and I remember when they sent us this letter, and I was talking to you about it, and the way they made you feel hurt me. I didn't, and I feel like crying. So I don't like to see my mother distraught like that, because like we talked about, we lived in this house since 1999, and for them to, 2018 to say, hey, we're going to foreclose on you, all the memories that you had in this house, all the hardships that you had in this house of fixing problems and just having family over. I remember we used to have family dinners every Sunday. There's more than a financial investment in a home.
Mm-hmm.
It's an emotional attachment, especially when you're creating a family. So
Yeah, I not to cut you off, but when I was getting those papers, I was panicking because I didn't understand I didn't understand all the legal language, but the things that I did understand was all lies.
Yeah.
Everything that they were saying that's not how it happened, that's not how it went down, and it was just a bunch of lies. And because I didn't understand the legal language, I didn't know how to go about defending myself, because but I knew what they were saying was lies, and that's not how it happened. So that's why I was panicking.
Yeah. And this was really close to Christmas. This is August. Right? So, and everybody already knows there's an additional sense of urgency around the holidays. We're trying to buy gifts for people, and there's just a lot of stuff going on at one time in our everyday lives, and then they know what they're doing when they send these letters around certain times. They know exactly what they're doing. So you were hurt by it, I was hurt by it, even though I had already moved out at the time, but it was still I don't want to see my mother feel like she can't defend herself, you know what I mean? That's not how life is supposed to be. Right? So anyway, we get this letter. I respond September 8th. Right? So we got it August 29th, 2018. I respond September 8th. And it's an affidavit of fact and writ of discovery because they're claiming that they're going to foreclose on this house, right? And in Rhode Island, as an example, you have, and this is Rhode Island statutory law, you have the right to something called the right to arbitration. So before they begin with the foreclosure process, they have to allow you to suggest to them to go through arbitration before they even begin to foreclose on you. And they never did that. They just sent to foreclose without, and even in the, how it said that please find a notice of default of the mortgage rights to foreclosure and notice of availability of mortgage counseling services. They didn't talk about the right of arbitration, and partially because these people aren't even residents of Rhode Island. Their businesses or their principal place of business are in different states, right? Which for those who know law, that invokes the issue of diversity, right? But when they foreclose on you, they're doing it in state court. But it doesn't make sense because the mortgage holder or the so-called creditor is not a resident of the state that they're charging you in. So how can a non-resident sue you in state court when the Constitution says if there's disputes between citizens of different states, federal court has jurisdiction over that? But anyway, they're not going to tell you that you have the right to arbitration before they foreclose. And just to go a little bit into the mortgage process, the word foreclose means before the closure. The closure of any contract is the signing of it. So they can't foreclose on you after the closing, right? So this is a bunch of fraud and trickery and deceit that's happening.
The way they work stuff.
Exactly, all at once that most people don't know about. So I responded with this, and I'll read some of it. Yeah, I'll read some of it. And again, this is not legal advice. This is just something I did, knowing full well the potential consequences of these actions. But it was what other choice do we have? It's either we try to defend ourselves, or we just say, you know what, whatever, let's just let them steamroll us, or call J.G. Wentworth, call these attorneys and let them steamroll us too, because they don't really care. And it's everybody knows this already. So how do we make change in our lives that's actually going to help, right? So anyway, I said, Dear Maggie Pitts Daly or whatever, because she's the one that sent the letter. I'm unaware of any information associated with loan number, and I put the loan number, or any mortgage or liens on my ancestral estate. So I'm changing the language, right? It's not just this building, it's my ancestral estate. This is my land, this is where my people are from, this is where I've always been, my ancestors always been here. So now it's changing the argument a little bit, right? In the constitutional nature of discovery, because they're threatening us with something, their intent to sue. So if you're intending to, or your intent to foreclose, which is the same thing essentially, I need to know all the information you have, so give it to me, right? Most of the time, they don't give it to us, they'll give it to whoever the attorney is that we hire, and then we don't even know what's going on, and then the attorney's doing whatever it is that they're doing, really explain to us. They're already cutting deals with whoever deals with, so we already know how this goes. So send me the stuff in the nature of discovery. Provide the following documents and answers to the following questions so that I may inspect the validity of this intent to foreclose and verify if you or your principal are holder in due course in both law and fact with an equitable interest in my estate, right? And of course that has heavy implications that I'm not necessarily going to explain right now, but the nature of it is dealing with, I think it's the federal law of, I think it's the Fair Debt Collection Act or something like that. But there's a federal law that specifies that if a creditor is trying to enforce an obligation, they have to first verify the debt, right? They have to prove that a debt actually exists. So I think it's the Fair Debt Collection. Anyway, just Google it. Again, this is not legal advice. In accordance with the good faith clause of both the state and federal constitution and pursuant to the common law principles contained in Rhode Island General Law 34-27-3.2 C3, in a peaceful attempt to deal honestly and fairly, I'm willing on behalf of my estate and heirs to coordinate a meeting with the intent to determine whether an alternative to foreclosure is feasible if any valid claim is presented to me or my beneficiaries, benefactors, assessors, assignees, attorneys, next of kin, etc., after inspection of the document sent by you, if and only if they are lawfully valid, right? So that's dealing with, again, the right to arbitration. So they send an intent to foreclosure. My response is, okay, let me see what you have to see if it's valid, and if it is valid, then we'll have this arbitration meeting to see what we can do to avoid foreclosure. And then in it, I say, number one, provide certified documents of any loan contracts or evidence of debt signed by me as the quote borrower unquote of any money as prescribed by by law, U.S. Constitution Article 1, Section 8 and 10. Right? Provide a bill of particulars and or any banking transactions associated with the loan in question sent to the quote borrower as proof that lawful money was in fact borrowed, standing as proof of indebtedness for the securing of a mortgage lien, which is the same thing, including certified documents that prove the account from which the loan was derived had any gold or silver. Right? Provide a certified copy of the original note. Clarify in writing which laws, if applicable, govern any alleged contract with my wet ink signature on them, i.e. federal, state, United States Code, statutes, constitutions, treaties, etc. Provide a certified copy of the affidavit of closure associated with the alleged loan and or mortgage. So notice how nothing is said that assumes any guilt, right? So show me proof that I'm the alleged borrower. Show me banking transactions that you gave me the $300,000 that you claim to have given me, which procured this debt in the first place, right? And when you look it up again, you'll see that there's federal laws associated with this. This is not just personal opinion. And then it ends with, in perpetual testimony of this matter, and I put a little Latin phrase, which means the same thing. If these certified documents cannot be provided within 9 business days upon receipt of this lawful affidavit and writ of discovery sent via certified mail, then you, your agents, and your principals have no equitable interest to, in association with, or pertaining to my ancestral estate located at, and then I put the longitude and latitudinal coordinates, along with the degrees, minutes, and seconds, which is the same thing as the longitude and latitudinal coordinates, just in minutes and seconds. Degrees, minutes, and seconds. And then I put in brackets the address that they have as far as the parcel, land, and plot number. And then respectfully sent and executed by my hand and seal on this day, the 8th day of September in the year 2018, signed my mother. And then at the bottom of the document, at the bottom of it, I put the certified mail numbers at the bottom that you get from the post office. And then on the next page, I signed and a bunch of other more signed. Right? Now, I'm not going to read every single document because it's going to be very long, but essentially what I and I remember I was explaining everything to you along the way, what I was trying to do and what type of effect I was trying to have. And so once that happened, they kept basically just escalating things without respecting anything that I said. And then at a certain point in time, right, they even sent something saying, like, who's this Jamal guy, basically, right? And then at that point, then we filed something at City Hall.
You was rattling their feathers, and that's when they wanted to know who you are.
Yeah, because they were like, what is happening here? Normally they get the response of they're terrorizing people, because that's that feeling that we get. It's the terror, like, oh my God, I'm about to lose my house, I'm about to lose this, I'm about to lose that. Like that's fear, man. That no one should live like that.
Right.
Nobody should live like that. So anyway, since they had the intent to foreclose, I sent that just to gather information, and then they sent another response. Let me just review this real fast. And so what I did here in another affidavit was I basically just asked questions about the mortgage itself. So this wasn't just they sent something, I sent something, and I'm just sitting around waiting. No, I was doing research on what I need to do to help, because I don't know everything. I know a little bit. I know that what they're doing is wrong, but it took research for me to figure out that Rhode Island has a statute that says you have the right to arbitration before foreclosure. So if this is Rhode Island state law, and in your mortgage it says applicable law means all controlling applicable federal, state, and local statutes, that means that Rhode Island state law applies to this document, to this mortgage. So if I'm asking you to have arbitration, you have to abide by that law. Did that happen?
No.
So that automatically, that means they're violating the term of the mortgage. So how can they say you're violating the terms of the contract, and then they violate the terms of the contract?
First.
Well, yeah, they already violated because they never did. You so they when you signed the mortgage, did they ever give you any cash?
Cash?
Yeah.
We got a check.
How much? Well, no, never mind, not how much. So you got a check, and who'd you give it to?
Us. It was ours. We got money back from the closing costs. The people that we bought the house from, they had to. I don't know why they had to give us money.
No. He's talking about when you actually get the mortgage.
Yeah, the loan. When you get a loan, right? You got a loan
So
from the bank.
Yeah.
They're claiming you got a loan from the bank.
Oh, I thought you meant the closing. No, they didn't give me no money.
They didn't give you any money.
No,
So,
they just told us how much we were approved for.
but they never gave you anything.
No.
So that means there's no evidence of debt.
Right.
If they never gave you any money, right? If I say, hey mom, I'm gonna give you $100 next week, and then I don't give it to you, and then the week after that I say, hey mom, where's my $100 that I loaned you? How do you owe me anything?
Right.
So already they violated the terms of the contract, right? So I was gonna explain this when she left, but since we're talking about it, so what happens is you take out a loan for X amount of money. They securitize that loan by putting a lien on the house. So it basically means if you don't pay this money back to us, we take your property.
Right.
But it's acknowledged as your property. You know what I'm saying? And that's why later you'll see when they did the reverse foreclosure, which I never heard of, that remember they were arguing that they wanted their lien to be the primary lien against the house because we made a lien against the house, which was just our adverse claim, right? So this is. I'm kind of going later on as to what happened, but it's proof that this Moorish stuff actually works. Obviously, if because a lien is just a claim. If I claim it's mine and you claim it's yours, well, now we have to figure out which side to lien on. It's a lien. It's a claim of interest in something, right? So they're claiming that we have interest in this property because we gave you a loan, which they never gave you, and you put your house up as collateral against that loan if you default on that loan, right? But the problem is they never gave you money. So if they never gave you money, how can they claim that you owe us your house now? Because you didn't pay the money that we never gave you, right? It doesn't make sense. And then again, in the mortgage, it's saying that these laws, which I reviewed the entire mortgage, which this is some of it. I reviewed the entire thing, and seeing this, like, okay, so you're telling me that the applicable law is Rhode Island state law. Well, then we have the right to arbitration, so you can't just. I know I'm repeating myself, but it's very important for people to know that this is what I was doing, right? Not just, oh, this is Moore's belief. No, Rhode Island general law says that. We have the right to arbitration. So what should have happened is they send the intent to foreclose. I respond with, okay, let's have a meeting first. Let's verify the debt. Let's have a meeting. And if this debt is valid, then we go through a third party, which we agree to according to Rhode Island general laws, and we see if anything alternative to a foreclosure is possible to avoid the stress, the panic, the heartache, the emotional pain, and all this suffering that we had to go through. They basically said, screw off, right? So this was just me inquiring about that, and you'll see how thick this is. And everything was sent certified mail, so that way they can never say we never got it, right? And again, most of it has my mother's signature on it. Oh, in addition, before I go into that, I also found the board of governors contract of this company and found Chairman Powell, Governor Bernard, and all these people that are part of these, 3 different corporations who are talking to us, right? So if you're talking to me, I'm talking to you. I'm not talking to this imaginary corporation that doesn't exist. I'm talking to you. You're responsible for this, right? And that's how I worded it. And I go a little bit more into detail in the Bay versus Oldfield. Oldfield is the guy that owns this company, so I was suing him directly. Like, you are engaging in fraud, and you'll see that later from the United States Justice Department that this is what these people do, right? So since they started this cause of action in state court, I filed a claim in federal court, which is what this is. This is the Bay versus Oldfield, right? Specialized loan service. Why can't I read? Specialized Loan Servicing LLC, Nick Oldfield, Toby Wells, Deborah Ayadel, whatever, Tom Millen, etc. 8742 Lucent Boulevard, Suite 300, Littleton, Colorado. So they're not even in Rhode Island. So that in itself is diversity. They're citizens of another state. Attacking us through an attorney that was there. I think they were in Pawtucket, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy. So she's representing a company in Colorado, which means they're not citizens of Rhode Island, right? And with filing that, there's something called an estoppel, right? An estoppel or like an injunction they're very similar. And again, this is not legal advice. This is just something that we did. An estoppel is exactly what it sounds like. It's stop. Estoppel is asking the federal courts to stop what they're doing in the state jurisdiction, so that way we can litigate this on a federal level, because issues of law supersede issues of facts, right? So they're trying to have a factual argument against this alleged default on this foreclosure process, but they're violating the law by not going through this arbitration agreement and validating the debt like federal law requires them to do. So that's why a claim was filed in federal court. With all this more information, and like I said, I go in more detail. I think I read it even word for word in the Bay versus Oldfield case, where you'll see there were several Moors that also signed these documents with us. It wasn't just me and my mom. I was able to. So as you see me doing the Rise of the Moor stuff throughout the years, we were also going through this. And notice how I wasn't, oh my God, this Moor stuff isn't real. It was keep pushing, just keep fighting, keep pushing, keep fighting, keep pushing, even through hardship. And that's what we have to do, right? And you'll see, I even have as an example case law going over the fact that a note is not money, right? So just to show you, like, this isn't just more science that we talk about on YouTube. This is stuff that affects everyday life, right? So filed that, blah 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 blah. They ended up saying that that the federal court didn't have jurisdiction because the amount in controversy wasn't over $75,000, which is a lie, because nobody's getting a home that size for less than $75,000. So they lied, right? So then I filed an appeal with the First Circuit in Boston, right? Then, this is just a notice of appeal, sending what I sent to the Court of Appeals in Boston to what I sent to the federal court in Rhode Island. And
they kept giving you a runaround with getting on the docket every time you went to go check.
Yeah, and then at one point in time, actually, they did something. Oh, this is what it was. I think they said, you have to be out of the house by this date, right? And I was pissed. Like, and this is just me. You're not talking to my mom like that. You're not talking to my mom like that, saying, oh, you got to be out the house. But no, it's not happening, right? So, and this is how real this is. So I think Juju took me. We drove straight to the federal court. I had nothing with me, nothing. I asked the clerk for a piece of paper. We went to the clerk's thing. I got my Morse ID. Can I get a piece of paper, please? She went to the printer, got me paper. I went to the next room. She gave me a pen. I hand wrote this document. Hand wrote it, front and back. Sloppy chicken scratch penmanship. And you'll see they filed it. So all this stuff, it has to be on 14, whatever the legal size, 9.5 by 14. I do have some legal size paper. It has to be a certain way, and you have to have no, bro, no. You can write it on a piece of toilet paper, right? And you see they filed it that day. Right? So, you're not, like I said, you're not talking to my mom no type of way and expecting me not to say something when she gave birth to me. It's not happening. Right? So, anyway, they ended up, the bank ended up responding with, who is this guy? Who is this Jamal guy? So, in response, and they basically said I had no claim, I had no interest because I wasn't a party to the mortgage because I didn't sign it. Right? Obviously, I didn't sign it because how old was I?
7.
Yeah, I was 7 years old. So obviously, I couldn't sign this mortgage and put myself in this fictional debt, right? So what we did was, and at the time I explained that to you, right? Because they said, "Who is this guy?"
Yeah.
That keeps writing us. I forgot how they worded it, but they
said I know they said you weren't authorized to discuss anything about the mortgage.
Yeah.
With them.
So at first they were sending stuff to you and my father.
Mm-hmm.
And then they stopped sending stuff to you because they kept seeing your signature on these documents and then my signature on these documents and then references to my name.
But Daddy was deployed, so that's why I was doing all of that.
Yeah. So what we did to alleviate that was we filed, it says Declaration of Trust, and this is a public thing. It was filed at Providence City Hall. Declaration of Trust, so that way I now officially become authorized to speak on this matter. All right, and I'll read some of it to you so that way you can see how, not power of attorney, but so to kind of go back, when I first got into more science, I had created a trust called basically from the crown of my mother and then her name. And in the trust that I created, which obviously she created the divine trust by creating me, and then as a male, I'm supposed to protect the women in my family, and this is just my perception of how I see it. I see it as my mom created me to help protect her and the family, and that's what males are supposed to do. That's my own personal belief. So when I found more science, knowing the importance of trust law, I named it after her because I come from her. So it's from the crown of my mother because when I was born, they say the baby's crowning, so she crowned me at birth. And then obviously, I always associated my mother with royalty, so if my mother's royalty, then that makes me royalty. And the whole Leo thing, Leo energy, her birthday is the same birthday as Marcus Garvey. So all this stuff, in my opinion, this is how I see things. So I'm going to name this trust after my mother, and in it, I'm going to obligate myself to protect our estate, which an estate is your money, your assets, your the land your house is on, the bank, your safes, documents, like everything that is yours is part of your estate, including yourself. So I obligated myself personally as the administrator of the estate with my mom and my family being the beneficiaries of it, meaning I provide a service when needed to help. So since that already existed and I already had the mindset, which is most important, I basically had this private obligation to help my family and contracted myself to my own document to help them when needed, which the document itself wasn't necessary. It's the mindset that's necessary. But anyway, so I couldn't do anything without her permission anyway, which is why most of the documentation had her name on it, with exception, I think with exception to the lawsuit. I think because I already spoke to her privately about, hey, I'm going to do this to help, and she agreed. So that creates the contract in itself. So that is proof that I was authorized to do what I was doing, but they needed to see it on paper. So I created the Declaration of Trust, document number 00226932, book number 12359, page 324, and this is the stuff from City Hall. I'm not going to show it because it has our address on it, but it's official receipt for recorded in Providence Recorder of Deeds, City Hall, Rhode Island, Providence, Rhode Island 02903. Type filing, recording, number, volume, page, time, and then it has all that information. And then it says trust. So this is the trust number. Trust number 00226932 12359 00324, and this was recorded at 10:49 and 13 seconds a.m. And it has my mother's name as the director, or it says DR. I'm not sure what that actually means, but she's the grantor of the trust. I'm the administrator of the trust, so it has her name and then my name. You see it says Bay Jamal Talib Abdullah, historical preservant. So it was $54, and they charge an additional dollar fee, and then another $3 fee for the same thing, historical preservation, right? $1 and $3, and then The recorder of deeds, John A. Murphy by Kim Kim. Receipt number 0180070, date 5/17/2019 at 10:50 in the morning. Right, so we went to the recorder of deeds in Providence, and then I think we didn't have cash, but they wanted cash, right? Something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So we had to go to the post office up the street, and we got a money order, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got a money order. This is my first time doing any of this stuff as far as at City Hall, but I knew like what needed to be done. I just didn't necessarily know how to do
The
it.
process. Yeah.
So that was our first time doing that
Yeah.
together, and I think we both learned a lot. And you know, me and my mother have this relationship where we just joke about everything anyway. So a lot of times we were just joking, even though we was going through this hardship. But it's like, how else are we gonna get through it?
Right.
This is real life, and it's hard, and they're making it unnecessarily harder. But anyway, this is what it says. I'm not gonna read all of it, but it says, "Know all men by these presents." I kind of got that from the military when they give us like at promotion ceremonies. They'll say, "Know all ye men that these presents shall come on this whatever date." So that's what I did. That this declaration is being nunc pro tunc, which means now for then, because I was already doing the work to help as this official capacity. So now for then, which nunc pro tunc, declaring that I, Felicia, not a what, the undersigned, have appointed my son and heir, Jamal Talib Abdullah Bey, as the successor and trustee of my estate, and then in brackets, Felicia's estate, for the specific purposes of. So it wasn't just, she just gave me general powers to do whatever I want. No, it's for the specific purposes. And this is how trust are supposed to work. There's a grantor, my mother. There's the administrator, me, and then the beneficiary, who was my mother and my family, right? And I'm kind of I still received a benefit because we still have the house, right? So the specific purposes of one, filing the claim to our ancestral estate with the mailing location of blank against the unlawful foreclosure and embezzlement. It's embezzlement. That's what they're doing. They're embezzling. By Nick Oldfield, the CEO of Specialized Loan Servicing LLC, SLC LLC, that certain parcel of land with all the buildings and improvements thereon, being listed as situated on the blank, the southerly side of blank street, in the city and county of blank, state of Rhode Island, laid out and designated as lot number blank, on the plot of lots on the Old Patuxent Road, surveyed and plotted June 4th, 1847, by Atwater and Sherbert, and this is all information you can find at City Hall Recorder of Deeds, which plot is recorded with the land evidence record of the City of Providence and plot book 10 at page blank, on plot card blank, parcel ID, assessor's plot number blank, or assessor's plot blank, lot blank, right? So this is all information you get at the Recorder of Deeds. Can you come over closer to me a little bit? Starting at point, and this is, so what I did was I went to Google Maps, and on Google Maps, zoom into your property and drop a pin on one corner of your property, and it'll give you the longitudinal and latitudinal coordinates. So, and then just change that to degrees, minutes, and then seconds. So starting at a point, blank degrees, 47 minutes, 19.4 seconds north, blank degrees, blank minutes, blank seconds west, on the northern side of what is commonly known as blank street, to a distance of, so right, once you drop the point, you get the longitude and latitude, you drop another point, you get that longitude and latitude, and then on Google Maps, you can measure the distance. So I'm starting at this point, then I'm going southerly, right, or wait, what did I say? To a distance of 81.64 feet, southerly to a point, right? So starting at this point, going 81 feet to another point, which is blank degrees, blank minutes, blank, 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 to a distance of 39 feet to the west to another point, right? Then going 81 feet again to the north to that point, and then going to the east to the original point. So now I'm boxing in geographically, not by the name of the street, because there's a Friendship Street in every city, there's a Broad Street in every city, there's the names of the street isn't the actual location. It's a longitudinal and latitude. Am I saying it right? Mm-hmm. Longitude and latitude coordinates. That's the actual property, and that's actually plotted on maps at City Hall. So I'm claiming the actual land, right? Blank, blank, blah, 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 blah. The lawful standing of the claim shall be based on. So my mother's appointing me as trustee for this specific lot of property for this specific purpose with these specific laws. right? United States court case, Donnie Williams versus the Commissioner of the IRS, House Resolution 5404. And then I go into the First National Bank of Montgomery versus Jerome Daly. I go over the Clearfield Trust Doctrine. I go over Craig versus the State of Missouri. And then that's basically it. Attached to this document is a copy of the Notice of Appeal and Writ of Estoppel filed with the United States District Court of Rhode Island and the United States Court of Appeals for the First Circuit by Jamal Talib Abdullah to prevent the unlawful foreclosure against the estate, as well as additional documentation to prove that a claim has been filed against Nick Oldfield and SLC LLC. I, Jamal Talib Abdullah, the heir of Felicia's estate, do hereby accept the appointment of trustee and successor of the estate by affixing my autograph/signature to this declaration of trust, and will perform my duties faithfully according to the rules as established by the grantor, my mother, of the estate, and the rules commonly established by trust law, by my hand on the 17th day of May 2019. Felicia is the grantor, Jamal trustee, and that is the claim that was filed at City Hall against the house. Right? So now, and you'll see later with the bank's response in the court, they wanted their lien to be the primary lien against the house. Right? And let's see if there's any private information on here. There is not. So this was also filed with the Declaration of Trust at City Hall, the actual court case that I filed. And you see the same docket, the same document number that was filed at the city is on the Declaration of Trust. So all of this was filed at City Hall. And for any of you that know, which you should all know, that when you go to City Hall, you can search anyone's name that lives within the city, and anything that's filed at City Hall will show up. So you can find whatever mortgage contract that any person has on their house is going to be there. So when they sell a property, they can't sell a property with a lien on it, right? In order to sell a property with a lien on it, you have to pay whoever the lien holder is. So let's say I have a contract. Let's say I have a car, right? And I owe you money because you loaned me. Let's say you loaned me $10,000 to buy the car, and I only paid you $5,000. You can file a lien on that car. That way, I can't sell it. And if I do sell it, let's say I do sell it for
I get my
$5,000. Exactly, you have to get your $5,000 first.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what happened with the house. We filed a lien on the house saying that this is our ancestral estate, not whatever it is you think you have going on. None of that's valid because you haven't validated the debt. Actually, let me Google it because I'm pretty sure it's debt validation. Again, this is not legal advice. This is for educational purposes only. It's federal law. Here it is. It's Title 15 of the United States Code, subsection 1692G, validation of debts. So before anyone, what's it called when you go to school? You get a loan? Student loans. Loans on cars, mortgages, credit cards, any type of so-called debt. Before they can collect anything from you, they have to prove that a debt was actually created. And remember, with the legal definition, a lawful definition of money, you'll see where it doesn't include evidence of debt. That doesn't prove that any money was transferred. Just because you have something that says someone owed you something is not proof that there was actually debt created. Right? So this is why learning these things are very important. And learning what a student loan is very important. So that's the nature of what we were dealing with. And remember, on the mortgage, it said all applicable state, federal, and local laws, right? So we should know which laws we can use for our benefit, because they rely on us not knowing which laws are out there. They rely on our ignorance. They rely on our full blind faith into the attorneys, which the word attorney means to turn over. That's what it means. So they're really just turning us over to the court so that way these proceedings can happen and we can just lose everything we have, which is what normally happens, right? So we filed a lien on the house. And what ended up happening was the federal courts, of course, were no help because they clearly don't give a F. And now we go to the state proceedings. And I kind of can't show this because there's private information on this. I'll do this. Right, so this is from, this is the case number. This is all real. None of this stuff, I'm not making any of this up. This is all real stuff. right? And if I'm lying, my mom's are here to say, oh yeah, my son's a liar, don't believe him. All right, so this is what they filed in the state court of Rhode Island to try to steal my mother's house. One second. Would you like to add anything before I keep rambling?
No.
Right? And I'll read, because there's specific language, and I remember when they sent this to you too, you had that similar energy of panic and fear, and I hate it. I hate it. I hate to see you like that. It really hurts me, like to the core of who I am. It really hurts. I feel like crying just talking about it. Let me see. So this was part of their demand. So what they ended up doing, again, they said get out the house by, I think it was in October of 2019 or something crazy, right? So within a year, they try to kick her out the house. And you already know when they do that, they bring the sheriff and they throw all your stuff on the curb because they don't care about you because you're not a human being to them, right? And you know, that's when a lot of us more showed up, and you'll see, I don't know if the picture's still out there, but you'll see us putting private property, do not trespass, and it was flags up, and you know, I'll just leave it at that. They ended up foreclosing on the house anyway and trying to sell it. So now, since that lien was on the house, they had to do this reverse foreclosure. So full disclosure, we didn't get what we wanted as far as the allodial title because of their fraud. But in the original argument, we had met the statutory requirements for adverse possession within the state of Rhode Island. But I already showed you how, and my mom said to confirm this and to attest to this, that they already didn't follow by Rhode Island general laws by not having the arbitration clause that is provided in the mortgage contract supported by Rhode Island's general laws. So it's already proof that they violated everything across every step of the way. But since this was filed at City Hall, they couldn't get away with it to the full extent that they wanted to. So although we didn't get everything, oh no, my dad's here now. Although we didn't get everything that we wanted, they didn't get everything that they wanted, right? So, and I'll read the specific language to show that what I filed at City Hall was the primary lien on the house, which is why they had to reverse this so-called foreclosure, right? Oh, so look, this is count one, and they call it quiet title. Now look up quiet title. The word quiet title, which means they have the title as long as nobody is challenging them. That's quiet title. That's called embezzlement. That's called theft. That's called fraud. It's cheating. Look it up. Quiet title. Look it up. And that's, let me see if there's any private, my parents' full names on here, so I'm not going to show it. But if you look up that, this is all public information. If you go to the Rhode Island courthouse and look up that number that I just showed, you have to pay for it, of course. You'll see on page 5, count 1, quiet title. So look, this is what the bank wants. Hi, Dad. Deutsche Bank requests that this court quiet title pursuant to Rhode Island general law to restore ownership of this property as it existed prior to the foreclosure sale to my mother and my father. When have you ever heard of a bank doing that? Ever? When? When have you ever heard of that? When have you ever heard of these Moors who's offering all this information, talking about allodial ownership of whatever? When has anybody ever heard of a bank asking the courts to restore ownership of this foreclosure that they just did to the original owners? When have you ever heard of that? Ever? When? Never. Right? And this is the key right here. Hold on, let me see if I can find it. This is the important part. All right, so this is enumerated paragraph 33, page 6. Deutsche Bank further requests that this court declare that the mortgage is a valid first position lien encumbering the property. You hear that? You hear it? Why? Because the declaration of trust of us claiming our ancestral estate was the primary lien against the house, which is why they had to reverse the foreclosure to get a civil remedy for the bank to say, you know what? Nope, that's not the primary lien against the house. We're going to bring it back to the foreclosure, to the mortgage. That's what they didn't want. So that in itself is proof that this quote unquote more stuff, which is just knowledge of the law, is actually real, right? And now my dad's here. If you want to add anything, Dad. So I went over a lot of stuff of the beginning up until the state court proceedings, and then I was arrested shortly after. So if you want to come on camera, kind of talk about what happened. And so they arrested me. Normally throughout this process, they were taking their sweet time. You'll see that this is from 2021. So they started the intent of foreclosure 2018. It wasn't until 2021 that this thing is open in state court. And unfortunately, I was in jail in Massachusetts when they had these proceedings. Once they found out, oh, that's the same guy that was fighting for his parents and his estate. Then they had it. Then they notified you like a few days before the actual thing, right? Which they never do. Normally it's like a few days in a few weeks, or if not a few months in advance. And so that's where I'm up to now. So talk about that, please. What happened when they sent you the paperwork and blah blah blah? And...
So I went to court, and I really didn't know what the heck I was, like what it was about. I didn't really understand it because wasn't able to talk to you about it first. So they basically said that the judge said that this was not something that they normally do. Well, firstly, she was like, what do I want to do? And I said, well, I want to continue with the paperwork that you, what was it called?
It was this one. Yeah, so I had given a copy of this to both of y'all, I think. It was the defendant's estate response in answer to the plaintiff's claim. And I'll kind of read this a little after.
Yeah, but what was it?
So, because they were asking to return the property back to you and Ma.
For the right.
But they wanted the mortgage to be the primary lien against the house. So I had agreed to the portion where they were trying to return ownership back to you and Mommy, but I was arguing that they still don't have a valid claim against the house for the mortgage to be the primary lien, because I had explained to y'all that that's really what they want, and they really just want this mortgage to be back in place to reverse what we had did. So
right. So I was trying
to go forward with this.
Right, with your claim, but I didn't really understand it.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't understand.
You didn't have enough time to
knowledge,
prepare.
right, and the knowledge to actually back up what I was saying.
Yeah.
So I was trying to remember as much as I could, and I tried to mention the law where they have a certain amount of time to notify me and all
exactly.
that stuff. But the judge was like basically saying that I should be happy that.
Yeah,
that
they reversed the foreclosure.
Yeah, because they normally don't do that, and I should be happy with it. And I'm like, but I'm not.
Yeah. Because
of the paperwork that I basically was trying to tell her that, basically make the argument that you were making. Yeah. That I didn't really.
To the best of your ability.
Yeah. So, but then she was like, when she was reading it, what you had put, she was like, yeah, well, it says, well, Jamal says blah 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 blah, like that, whatever. So I was like, well, Your Honor, I really don't appreciate you. No, I forgot what she said. She said something.
She
but
asked
I said,
if he was a lawyer.
Yeah, and I said, well, I really, well, he's not a, I said, well, I really don't appreciate you talking down about him because he's not here to represent himself or whatever. You know what I'm saying? So she was like, was you there? You were there? I forgot how it was. I can't remember. It was, but I was like,
you remember, Judy?
Yeah.
But, no, you don't have to go on camera, but you can be around it to add in, because I wasn't there, so I don't know what happened.
Yeah, so I was basically like, well, he's not here to defend himself. Like, that's kind of
So they were
for you to.
She was basically asking you, like, so how do you want to proceed? Because in this, I said exactly how we wanted to proceed.
Right, and
the issue was, I was appointed the trustee, but I wasn't there to.
Right. So I said I wanted to continue on the path that we were already.
Yeah. So now I want to read it now. So this is, again, the defense. Let me see if there's any private information on here. Just y'all names. You don't care about that, right? Your names being on here? All right. So this is, so this is what was filed in response to the bank saying we want to return the ownership of the property back to my parents, but they want the lien to be the first, the priority lien against the property.
Should say.
So it's responder, me, Jamal Abdullah Bey, successor and heir to Felicia's estate, Providence Recorder of Deeds, City Hall, trust number, that number I read off, document number, the document I read off, receipt number, the receipt I read off, date filed, the date I read off, time it was filed, the time I read off from the City Hall receipt, and the page number is on Colony of Rhode Island, Superior Court, Deutsche Bank, National Trust Company versus my parents, civil action number, attorney for the plaintiff, right, Michael R. Hagopian. And it's 6 pages. This is how I started off, and please research this information for yourself. Again, this is not legal advice, this is just for educational purposes only. So I start off by saying, whereas the plaintiff, Deutsche Bank, has a history of fraud, estate embezzlement, misleading investors, conversion, and is cheating, and here's the reference. So look this up. United States Justice Department, Office of Public Affairs, News, Friday, January 8th, 2021, Prophet Noble Jolly's birthday. Deutsche Bank, and this is a quote from the United States Justice Department, quote, Deutsche Bank agrees to pay over $130 million to resolve Foreign Corrupt Practices Act and fraud case, unquote. And if you don't know, Deutsche Bank is a German bank. It's registered in Deutschland, Germany. So this bank is a German bank. Why are they doing business here? It doesn't even make sense. We don't even realize that these. And when you look up the subsidiaries of Deutsche Bank, it's if not hundreds of thousands, it's hundreds of banks that are subsidiaries of this bank. So when we're dealing with one bank, they're just a member bank of Deutsche Bank, and Deutsche controls everything that they do. So we don't even really know who we're contracting with. And these people have a history of fraud, right? So that's one payment they had to give out, $130 million, which none of us got. United States Justice Department, Office of Public Affairs, News, Tuesday, January 17th, 2017. Deutsche Bank agrees to pay $7.2 billion for, listen, misleading investors in its sale of residential mortgage-backed securities. What did they just try to do to us? They tried to sell the mortgage-backed security, which was the property, which is what the foreclosure was. And they have a history of misleading people. So when I started off by showing you how they violated the terms of their own contract, the terms of Rhode Island general laws, that's how they do it. They have a history of it. When did any of us receive the $7.2 billion for them misleading? Why don't more people know about this, right? And then whereas the plaintiff is not a citizen of the state/colony of Rhode Island, and therefore the issue of diversity of citizenship is invoked because they're German. They're not even citizens of the country. It's a German bank. Look, let's look it up. Deutsche Bank. Deutsche. Deutsche Bank. Deutsche Bank. This is I'm not sure what this is. Oh, Wikipedia. Deutsche Bank AG, German pronunciation, sometimes referred to simply as Deutsche, is a German multinational investment bank and financial services company headquartered in Frankfurt, Germany. Did y'all know that you were dealing with a German bank when y'all got into this agreement? My mom's saying no. Dad, did you know? So now you don't even have full disclosure. So from the beginning you were being deceived. From the beginning. Did they say, hey, by the way, we're German? By the way, we're not even citizens of the United States. They didn't tell you that. So now they're making claims to have loaned you this money from Germany. Did you receive any wire transfers from Germany at any point in your life?
Not that I recall.
Not that you recall. My mom says, Dad, did you? No, never got money from Germany. Come on, man. These people, and the United States Justice Department said that they're frauds, right? So they're not even citizens of the United States. The plaintiffs, they're not even citizens of the United States. Whereas the plaintiff's claim is in regards to a property with an estimated value of blank dollars, therefore invoking the diversity jurisdiction of the federal courts regarding controversies of $75,000 or more dollars. Whereas Deutsche Bank is not incorporated within the state of Rhode Island. Whereas Deutsche Bank is headquartered in Frankfurt, Germany. Whereas Deutsche Bank was founded and incorporated in Berlin, Germany in 1870. Deutschland, right? It's not Germany, it's Deutschland, that's the property. Whereas since this is a civil action, since the plaintiff is not a citizen or resident of this state, and since the sum of value in the matter of controversy exceeds $75,000, the state court lacks jurisdiction. Whereas the defendants and their heirs have met the necessary statutory requirements regarding adverse possession within the state/colony of Rhode Island General Law, Title 34, Chapter 7, Subsection 1. Conclusive title by peaceful possession under claim of title. That's Rhode Island laws, not Moorish belief, not sovereign citizen belief. That is Rhode Island general laws. Whereas the defendants and heirs have filed a claim of title to the estate property in question, see Province Recorder of Deeds, that whole trust thing that I read. Furthermore, since the defendants and their heirs have filed a claim of title to the estate/property in question, the plaintiff, with a past and repeated history of fraud and embezzlement, knows that the foreclosure process against the estate was in fact state embezzlement, and is making an attempt to abuse the court by having the court go against Rhode Island general laws, Title 34, Chapter 7, Subsection 1, by making the defendant and their heirs, filed claim of title to the estate/property in question, which is ipso facto and ipso jure the first, primary, and highest encumbrance on the property, invalid, and have the courts make the invalid mortgage as the first encumbrance on the property. So I was telling them, I already know what you're doing. What you're doing is fraud. This is really what you want. It's not about saying, because the judge said, well, you should be thankful that we're doing this. No, you're committing fraud, and everybody and their mom knows it.
And that's what I told us. I don't agree. You're gonna make your decision based on whatever you're making your decision on, but I do not agree to it.
Yeah, and it's under. They forced us to do it. Like, get down or lay down, right? Defendant's answers to claim, page 4 of 6, number 11. The defendant and their heirs realleges the aforementioned claims, paragraphs 1 through 10. Number 12. The defendants and their heirs agree, in part, with plaintiff's action to rescind the foreclosure sale and revert ownership of property to the defendants and their heirs. The defendants and their heirs further state, so notice how it's not a me, her individual thing. It's we are a family. It's us. Their heirs, the defendants. It's not just, when they attack our parents, they're not just attacking our parents. They're attacking us too. This is a house we grew up in. I don't think Eb at the time was old enough to live on her own, right?
There.
Yeah, Eb was born there. My sister was born there. Like, this isn't just a house. It's our entire estate. It's our family history. It's our family legacy. It's our bloodline. Like, all of this matters in other countries. They don't do this in other countries, right? The defendants and their heirs further state that the plaintiff has no claim upon which relief may be granted in relation to the mortgage remaining as a first position encumbrance on the property, as the defendants and their heirs have met the necessary statutory requirements regarding adverse possession within the state of Rhode Island, and I reference the same law, conclusive title by peaceful possession under claim of title. The defendants and their heirs further state that the state, nor its officials, judges, or magistrates can go against, rule against, or oppose its own state constitution, federal constitution, or general laws. So if your laws are saying that we meet the statutory requirements to own this property outright, why are you doing this? We know why they're doing it, but just for the sake of arguing, this is a historical document that anyone and their grandmother can look up and prove this is how they're violating people. We're trying to resist peacefully according to their own laws, and they're saying F you. Your own law says this. The defendants and their heirs further state that there was an actual claim, open, peaceful, notorious, uninterrupted, quiet succession and possession of the property, and a allodial claim to land in question for a period of blanks, and have been, since the beginning of the unlawful foreclosure process, asserting the absolute right and title to the land and property in question. See Jamal Talib Abdullah Bey versus Oldfield and others, case number 1:19-Charlie Victor CV-00067-Juliet Mike JJM-Lima Delta Alpha LDA, filed with the Clerk of Court of the United States District Court for the District of Rhode Island. The defendants and their heirs further state that even if the state unlawfully and unconstitutionally does not recognize the defendant's adverse possession pursuant to the state's own laws, the state must deem the foreclosure sale as invalid since there was no mediation notice before the foreclosure process or before the alleged loan was 120 days delinquent nor was there foreclosure counseling. See Rhode Island General Laws, Title 32, Chapter 27, mortgage foreclosure and sale. The rules are clear as to what's supposed to happen, and they didn't do it.
That's what I told her.
Declaratory judgment. The defendant and their heirs realleges the aforementioned claims, paragraph 1 through 16. The defendants and their heirs request the court admit that it does not have subject matter jurisdiction pursuant to the federal constitution and the federal statutory laws. The defendant and their heirs, which is, I'll read it, 28 U.S.C. 1332 and Article 3, Section 2 of the United States Constitution. Number 19, the defendant and their heirs request the courts admit that it cannot adjudicate on this issue, but can share its opinion by declaring that the alleged foreclosure process was invalid since it violates Rhode Island General Laws, Title 37, Chapter 27, Title 32, Chapter 27, mortgage foreclosure and sale. I'm reading too fast. The defendants and their heirs request the court admits that it cannot adjudicate on this issue, but can share its opinion by declaring that the defendants and their heirs' claim to property and land is valid pursuant to Rhode Island General Law, Title 34, Chapter 7, by possession and I'll read it. Rhode Island General Laws, Title 34, property, Chapter 7, by possession and prescription. Section 1, conclusive title by peaceful possession under claim of title, which is Rhode Island General Law, not sovereign citizen, anything. The defendants and their heirs request the court admits that it cannot adjudicate on this issue, but can share its opinion by declaring that all rights and privileges of ownership were never taken away from the defendants and their heirs. Number 22, the defendant and their heirs request the court admits that it cannot adjudicate on this issue, but it can share its opinion by declaring that the defendants and their heirs' claim to this land is superior and melodial, and further state that any and all other persons, natural or artificial, shall have no right of claim to the land or property in question. The undersigned hereby reallege the aforenoted claims, paragraphs 1 through 22, and affirm by affixing our wet ink autograph and signature to this document, affidavit, and writ entitled Defendant's Estate Response and Answer to Claims, Plaintiff's Claims. We further state and affirm that a copy of this was mailed to the United States Postal by United States Postal Service mail to Michael R., whatever his name is, BBO, number 549919, Brock and Scott, PPLC, 180 Main Street, Suite 200, Pawtucket, Rhode Island, 02860. Attorney for the German plaintiff. Sometimes I should be saying stuff that makes me laugh. Attorney for the German plaintiff.
Sarcastic.
Yeah. We further assert that all statements are true and were made to the best of our ability. We further state that no statement made was intended for or to be used for fraud, misprision, and were made to respect and honor, to respect the honor, dignity, respect, and nobility of our state and heirs. Signed, my father, my mother, and appointed heir, successor, responder, and authorized estate representative, me, dated 5/26/2021, page 6 of 6. Anything else that you two would like to add before we wrap it up? Well, before I start talking about, other things. What did you guys learn from this process? I mean, we already know that these people are corrupt, but besides their corruption, was there anything that y'all learned?
No, not me.
Why you say that?
Because I already knew that. Well, I shouldn't say that. I learned that this whole system is crooked, but once I understood it was crooked, I already knew what it was. Like everything you sent out, I knew what they was gonna say. Basically, when they came back, I just knew. I know that if you was at court when Daddy went to court that day, it would have turned out totally different.
Yeah, because I asked her when she said she started reading what you was reading, and she said blah 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 blah, and it just goes on and on. I was like, well, I said it doesn't say blah blah blah.
Yeah.
So why can't you read?
Yeah, exactly.
Because it would be on the record.
Exactly.
And I guess she probably didn't want it to be on the record what you were saying, and because then it would have made sense, and even she would have been like, yeah, I kind of.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, yeah, they are German.
Because I'm like this makes no sense. I said, well, I'm not agreeing to it. The law. I just in the general laws that I read to her, I said, you already know this, so why are we even? I don't understand why we're even here. Yeah. And even the attorney was like, you could say he was getting hot in his collar. And I was looking, I'm like, why are we even like you violated all these laws, so why are we still? I said, you're gonna make your decision based. I already see where it's going because he's not here, so you're not even reciting what was stated. So
Yeah, it was just for show. So what do you want? What do you mean? What do I want? It's already clearly written out what we wanted.
Well,
we
what
wanted.
they want, what do we want, or what do they want?
Well, that's what they were asking in court.
Oh.
So what do you guys want? You know, because
Right.
the plaintiff is claiming one thing, we're claiming another. That person, that judge, is supposed to come to some type of agreement because it's a civil court, not criminal court. So whatever, you know, it was supposed to be the chance to negotiate. You know, it should have been you know, we present our argument, they present theirs, and then she makes the decision on which is the best argument. But that didn't happen because, like my father said, like they don't want that on the record because, you know, now this becomes, you know, res judicata for other people. Like this is what was said on the record. This is the evidence on the record. Like you can just Google search Deutsche Bank in the United States Justice Department, and they know they commit fraud. They know it. This isn't private information. This happens all the time, and our family's not the only family that had to go through this hardship. Luckily for us, they did this, like my father said, something that they never do, a reverse of foreclosure, so we didn't have to leave the house.
And that's what I said. I said just the simple fact that you said that already should tell you what it is that we want.
Exactly.
Like I said, and I just wasn't prepared to argue it. You know what I mean? Like
I think when I was in jail, I think you came to visit, or maybe you told me over the phone. But you had like 7 days to prepare it, if my memory is certainly correct, or something ridiculous like
less
that.
than 7.
Yeah, like how do you expect? They know what they're doing. It's unfair. They're destroying people's lives. You know, thanks to the creator of the universe, my family was lucky to the point we didn't lose the house. But what about everybody else's family? Because I hear, you know, Moors all the time have contacted me throughout the years across the country saying, you know, hey, my grandparents paid off this house and now they're trying to take it from me. Like, how do we not see that that's a problem?
Right.
Like, how do we not care about other people to the point where we say, hey, I might not be able to do something about it, but I can say, hey, that's a problem and that's wrong. And maybe here's some information, like I said, it's not legal advice, do your own thing. But here's what we did. Whatever you want to do. But this is what we did. We didn't get exactly what we wanted, but we got what we wanted, essentially, which was not being kicked out of the house. Because, like I said, I didn't like to see my mom in that state, and I feel like it's my personal obligation to protect what belongs to my estate, which includes my mother, her feelings, and my parents' house. So I think if more of us, again, this is not advice, my personal opinion is if more of us were willing to defend what we believe is ours, including our loved ones, then we wouldn't be in this situation. And I understand that there's a lot of corruption. It's organized corruption. It's this organization representing that organization representing this organization who's not even on this country, on this continent. But it's like, we're not the only people that went through this or that are going through this. So we need to be able to somehow form like a Moorish homeowners association and live close to each other. So that way, if they do try to embezzle someone's estate under the name foreclosure, all of us that are homeowners in this association can show up and say, hey, you're not doing this to us. Enough is enough. You're committing all this fraud. You're paying $130 billion in damages, but we're not getting any of it. Yet we're still subject to the same fraud. Like, where's the equity in this? Where's the fairness in this? Where's the remedy in this? And so I wanted to share this with everyone to show you that this is real life. It's scary. It's an emotional roller coaster. It's scary. You know, we feel helpless. We feel abandoned. Like I'm about to cry. You know, all these feelings that we have of just defeat after defeat after defeat, and feeling defeated and feeling hopeless. Like, who do we turn to? Where do we go? We have to go to ourselves, and we have to rely on each other, and we have to trust each other. Like my parents.
All right, Jamal.
I'm fortunate enough to have my parents that they trusted me enough to be able to help. But not everybody has that. Not everybody has someone to help. Not everybody has someone to trust in them. And to, yeah, we didn't get exactly what we wanted, but we got what we wanted. We still own the house. You know, so think about everybody else. And through that hardship, we should at least be brothers in the struggle, brothers and sisters in the fight to stop suffering. Let's stop suffering, man. Like, when is enough going to be enough? And if we don't do anything to change it. It's just going to keep happening to the next generation and the next generation and the next generation and the next generation and the next one and the next one and the next one, which is exactly what they're doing. And that's exactly what's happening, right? And that's why I wrote the thing on the website, from Black Wall Street to the ghetto, because there wasn't just one Black Wall Street in Tulsa, Oklahoma. There were many hundreds of thousands of so-called Black Wall Streets where our people own properties, own their houses with no mortgages. And you'll see that the federal government, through the so-called Fair Housing Act and through the modernization of the country by building highways, they went straight through so-called Black communities and displaced our people. And at the same time, through the federal government of fair housing, built these housing complexes, which is why we're growing up in the ghetto today. That's how they did it. They said, oh, this thriving Black community, guess what? We're going to build a highway straight through it. Now these people are displaced. And you'll see it's documented evidence from the federal government of the United States. You know, they will compensate us for the destruction of our property by claim of eminent domain, but it wouldn't be the actual value of the house. It would be significantly less, which means since now we're at a place we got to buy another house that we can't afford, which then you see that they created these mortgages in 1934 when they faked the crisis. Like, this is how we got to where we are today. It was a 60-year, which is 2 generations, a 60-year block of them planning to destroy us, and then they did. And that's how it happened, and this is what we can do to, and again, it's not legal advice. This is the information we can learn to maybe help formalize a way to defend ourselves. And that's at least what you can take away from this. Anything else before I cry myself to sleep?
I'm hungry.
No.
So go to the website, riseinmores.org. This information is available. A lot of it is available for free. Some of it, like the Bay versus Oldfield case, you have to pay for. But it's either you get this information and maybe you're empowered and, you know, inspired with the holy zeal to do something for yourself as far as further your knowledge, or you're in some hardship and you feel hopeless. The choice is yours, caveat emptor, but just know that these people are not playing, they're not fair, but at least we can feel like we have a fighting chance with the truth, and we might not always get what we want, but we can get something. And that's it. So go to riseinmores.org, support, get the information, study it for yourself, cross-reference, research, say, hey, you know, Jamal's full of crap, this isn't how it works, it's not real, even though it's Rhode Island general laws. You know, at least get it, study it for yourself, and challenge me on it. Peace. Now my parents are arguing about food. They're doing what parents do.
You can't just answer the damn question.
No fighting.